Welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we'll see how several divorced women share their advice with others in the same situation, ranging from one who says, "Don't wait to date a new man after your divorce," to another who advises that a man should wait at least 3 years after the divorce. We want you to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Recently, we noticed that 73% of the people watching our content aren't subscribed, and we encourage you to do so. We promise to keep bringing you quality topics. Don't forget to leave us your comments and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. Now, let's get started.
Here's advice about dating a divorced parent with kids that I don't think any of you are going to take. Let's say you fall madly in love with a divorced parent who has one child. I do not think that you should date that person until 3 years from when their divorce agreement is signed. Not 3 years from when they get separated, not 3 years from when the marriage went sour, 3 years from when the divorce is complete. 3 years per child. So if you fall in love with a divorced parent with 2 minor children, you should date them 6 years after their divorce is complete. For a year after they complete the divorce process, they are simply mourning and grieving the dissolution of a marriage, because oftentimes people can't grieve that fully while they're divorcing, and they're grieving the losses from the divorce process. The divorce process in and of itself offers people losses they need to grieve. So that first year is just them processing the trauma and the loss of the marriage and the divorce.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
You never notice how women give this kind of advice to other women when it's about criticizing men, but when it's about moving on with the man they like, the narrative changes, even if they're still married. Once, a woman told me, "A woman grieves the relationship while she's still in it." This means that before deciding to leave you, she's already been preparing herself, sometimes for years before telling you. It's no coincidence that women initiate 80% of divorces in this country. You know what bothers me? The double standards. When a man leaves a woman and has someone new within a week or two, he's accused of being unfaithful, as if he was involved with someone else before separating, as if men simply can't move on. But when women do the same, the story is that she deserves to be happy. Just look at the advice they give each other when they're the ones on the other side.
I think it's totally okay to date while you're waiting for your divorce to finalize. My divorce took 2 years and 4 days, and if it was up to me, we would have been done in 6 months and 1 day, which is what California, how long they make you wait. The irony is that my ex-husband and I agreed to every single thing that I had typed out on a Word document, presented to him at our kitchen table, like 1 or 2 months into the separation. He agreed to what I had written down. But instead, it cost both of us like tens of thousands of dollars, tons of lawyers, and 2 years, 4 days later, because he wanted to drag things out. And I truly believe that the reason he wanted to drag things out was because he was watching me have too much fun or hearing about all the fun I was having on social media. I wasn't broadcasting dates or anything like that, but you could just tell I was having a good time with my friends on the weekend when I didn't have my kids. And I think the only control that he had was to retaliate by making things go as long as he possibly could. So feel free to date, but I would keep all the fun that you're having to yourself for after your divorce is final.
Stop it. Get some help.
My divorce is still pending after 4 years. I've been with my BF for 3 years, lol. Same. 29 months and 4 days. Been dating for almost a year, and he still doesn't know. Absolutely keep dating private. Nothing posts to social media until divorce is final. We are going on 3 years, and it's still not finalized. Emphasis on their need to try to control and try to make us miserable like they are. It's truly so sad for them, and unfortunately the kids. He probably was trying to prevent it from happening because he wanted you still. And yes, control, which shows how toxic he is.
Second year is for that parent-child dyad to find a new balance of daily living, just their new normal. How do they handle homework? How do they clean out the fridge? How do they get the kid to extracurriculars? What's the balance there? What is the rhythm of their days? They need time after processing the trauma and the loss to find that new rhythm. So they process the trauma and the loss, they find their new rhythm, that parent-child dyad together, and then they have a year to cultivate bandwidth in their brain. Because being in a relationship is not easy. Being in a relationship and considering another person's needs and life and emotion and their own rhythm of their days, that takes a lot of cognitive bandwidth from both the parent and the child. Frankly, the sad part about kids in divorce is that kids don't choose and have almost no control over when marriages go sour. Kids don't choose divorce, and kids also don't choose when their parents bring other people into their lives.
Do you see how the narrative changes when you're a man versus a woman? When a man gets divorced, the changes are much more drastic than for a woman. Many men have to leave their homes, and while this might seem minor to women, it's incredibly difficult when you don't have a support system. Men often try to prolong the marriage because they're the ones trying to fix the problems. No one wants to lose their family. They know that once the divorce starts, they likely won't see their kids. And there are men who have dreamed their whole lives of being fathers. On top of that, there's the financial hit, the cost of finding a lawyer, and the fact that the person filing for divorce has often been preparing for months. Sometimes, they already have a lawyer, evidence against you, and their family on their side. Meanwhile, you have nothing. You're caught off guard, and everything hits you at once. Some men experience panic attacks or mental breakdowns on top of other adult responsibilities and issues they're already dealing with. For us, it feels like we're not even allowed to be weak. This is why you should always hire a lawyer, no matter what kind of divorce it is. A lawyer in a divorce is like a rifle for a soldier in war. Without it, you're dead.
To successfully parent a child while bringing a new person into their life, you have to be on it. You have to have a lot of cognitive bandwidth. You have to be willing to read books and listen to podcasts and think hard about your kids' emotional needs and think hard about your own ethics as a partner. Like, it's not easy. And when people go out of their way to make it look easy, they have their own issues. For every extra child in the mix, each of those stages takes longer. So no, I don't think that two kids and a parent can process the trauma and loss and grief from a divorce in 1 year. I think you give them another year. And I don't think that they can find a new rhythm, a new daily rhythm in 1 year. You got to give them another year. I don't think you can give them the chance to cultivate the cognitive bandwidth of welcoming a new person into their lives in 1 year. So we expand it. Is it fun to be the divorced parent with kids, staying single so that you can just get through these stages? It is not fun. That is why people start new relationships before they get out of marriages. It's why people rush things with new people. It is because people want to avoid those things. It is because people don't want to process the loss and trauma and grief of a hard marriage and a divorce. They don't want to process it. They want to be starting something new. And that's very human, and it's also not fair. It's not fair to the new person. It's not fair to the kids. And ultimately, it's actually not even fair to the parent getting divorced.
I date, but my kids don't know anything about my dating life. Dating versus escalating and integrating relationships are two very different things. So a person with 4 kids should not date for 12 years? That's ridiculous. I knew of someone who married only 1 or 2 years after his divorce was completed. He didn't have kids, but I thought he went really fast with his second. My parents have been married 4 times each. I'm divorced. Blending is so overrated. I disagree. My husband would have been snagged so fast. He's a keeper, and I'm glad I got in there quickly, or he would have been dating someone else. The vast majority of people in prison, on drugs, or on stripper poles come from broken homes. Stop getting divorced if you care about your kids.
I honestly think that divorce if you don't have kids and divorce if you have kids should be called 2 different things because the experience is so different. If you don't have kids, you get divorced, you're out of each other's lives. If you do have kids, in no way are you out of each other's lives. And you have to process the loss. What are you actually saying goodbye to? What are you actually welcoming in? And you have to do that while that other parent is still in your life. People have very, very simplistic takes on divorce and remarriage. There are lots of people who will say really, really mean things about men going out and finding new women. There are lots of people who say incredibly mean things about single moms. People get so mean about it because it's a very triggering topic, because it is people's childhoods we're talking about, and that's very triggering. Because it is people's childhoods that we're talking about, take the time to go slow. Create the time, actually process what has happened. And more than that, give your kids all the time in the world to process what they went through before entering them into something new.
I won't deny it. This woman has a point. I think as a man, you should get your life in order first, because the changes after a divorce are radical, especially when it comes to your finances, which often take a huge hit. However, what I notice in her message is that she's specifically talking about men, and I think this can be looked at in two ways. It's very different to be the one who files for divorce compared to the one who is served with divorce papers. The first type, the one filing for divorce, has already decided to leave, prepared for it, and set their mind on moving forward. But for the one who's being divorced, whether they were cheated on, blindsided, or given a sudden reason to end the marriage, it's much harder to move on. They didn't choose to leave. They were pushed out or forced to go. Life is tricky. You could get divorced or be left, and then a month later meet an amazing woman, someone truly special. But here's the thing. It's very likely you won't have that opportunity with her 6 months or a year down the line. It's a moment in time. If you let her go, she won't come back. That's why this situation has so many nuances, and the impact really depends on which side of the divorce you're on. What do you all think? We've reached the end of the video, but before we go, here are some questions for you. Why do you think women grieve the relationship while they're still in it? How long do you think someone should wait before dating after a divorce? If you enjoyed the video, we invite you to subscribe. We've also left you 2 great videos about divorce stories. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss our next installment here on The Wall.